high utility bills for heating and air conditioning, that's a big deal. And with Window Nation's semi-annual sale, you can replace your windows and save big, too. Hurry, this month only, get 50% off all windows, plus 0% interest for 5 years, and get a bonus savings offer when you schedule your appointment today. Put an end to your window problems and get them installed before the summer heat. Schedule a fast, no-obligation in-home consultation now with the pros at Window Nation. It's easy. Call 866-90NATION or visit windownation.com.
30.
To take you through all the huge sports moments this spring. The exclusive sports book of ESPN has it all, including offers and promotions from Scott Van Pelt and Stephen A. Smith. From the playoff intensity to getting on the links and out to the ballpark, there's no better time to be a sports fan. New users get $100 in bonus bets for making any sports book bet. Download ESPN Bet today. What a play.
Must be 21 plus. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in partnership with Hollywood Casino at Kansas Speedway.
You're listening to the most powerful
details.
sports station in the country. Sports Radio 810, WHB Kansas City, the power of sports.
America's largest all-sports radio station presents the #1 motorsports show for over 2 decades, Track Talk, brought to you by Rod & Supply and the Power Ride Midwest Lightning Sprints. Here are the racing boys, Scott Traylor and Kirk Elliott.
Welcome to the pre-race show here at Kansas Speedway. I'm Scott Traylor, Todd Surprise running the show. Kirk Elliott, my partner for the last 24 years. Kirk, how you doing, bud?
We are live here before the big race at Kansas Speedway. Yeah, the NASCAR Cup Series in town for the first of 2 visits at Kansas Speedway. They'll be back here in late September, but today it's the Advent Health 400, which gets the green flag in a little over an hour from now. And Ma Nature, we wish you would cooperate. Let's get this.
Let's get the weather
precipitation out of the area. But looking at the radar, Scott, it looks like it's going to blow through, and I think we'll be fine, even if it does delay things for a little bit. I don't think it's going to be for long.
Todd, you were out there in Piper. What did the weather look like out there to you?
Man, it's pretty much out here in Gladstone. It was really cloudy and overcast, and it didn't feel like rain. When I say that, my bones wasn't hurting this morning, so I didn't feel like the rain was moving in. But when I went out to break right before we started the show here, it looked like it was going to start maybe raining a little bit. And then as we talked to a producer, we got a little bit of sprinkles here and there in a few places. So, like I said, either here, Gladstone, at Kansas Speedway's got maybe a little bit of sprinkling. I don't know.
But I think it's going to move through.
The
percentages are not that high. It's supposed to be cloudy the rest of the day. Bit on the cool side, shall we say?
Yes, bring a jacket.
I think the high temperature today was supposed to be in the mid-60s somewhere. A little bit cool. People are bumbled up out here, but ready to see a great race. We're going to get this thing in at some point today, even if it's going to be delayed a little bit. They've got the track dryers out there. It won't take them long to get it dried.
Maybe they'll run under the lights tonight.
I hope not.
Yeah,
right.
I think
that's there if necessary. But I think we'll get this thing.
You know what I really like? That Christopher Bell won the pole.
How about that?
Yes. What'd you think about that, Kirk?
He turned a fast lap.
On the weekend, there was
183.107 miles an hour.
Driving for Joe Gibbs Racing. He's won one race this year. He won at Phoenix earlier this year. And he's made the Final Four the last 2 years in the Cup Series. Remember those walk-off wins that he had a couple of years ago to get him into the Final Four? And he did it again. He got into the Final Four again last year. And it's a little hit and miss for Christopher Bell so far this year. But even though he's won that one race, he's already qualified for the playoffs this early in the season. But he's got a fast race car out there. He looked good in qualifying. And he's won in the Xfinity Series here at Kansas Speedway. We'll see if he can get it done in the Cup Series. And I would say this is somewhat of a local track for Christopher. He's from Norman, Oklahoma. And, we watched Christopher race for a lot of years before he even got into NASCAR. So I think it would be like a home win for Christopher if he were able to pull this off today.
I would agree with that. And last night, Kyle Larson, he runs second at Lakeside, and he qualified fourth here today.
Yeah, he was the last out to qualify, and it looked like he, usually when you're the last one out to qualify, that means you were fast in practice.
Right.
And you're, one of the top guys in the first round of qualifying, and I think a lot of people thought that Larson was going to supplant Bell off the pole, but that didn't happen. He ended up in fourth place. Let's hear from the pole sitter, Christopher Bell, after his thrilling lap that he laid down at Kansas Speedway.
Well, it is incredibly nice to have some success, and my name's Christopher, for those of you that may have forgotten. But yes, it is nice to have success, but what happens on Saturday has no dictation on what happens on Sunday. So we've got a great starting spot, and we're in prime position to win some stage points. But 267 laps is a long time, and yeah, I fully believe that we can have a great race tomorrow, and I fully believe I can be talking to all of you guys in 24 hours after the race too. So it's just got to come together, and honestly, at this point, I'm not looking for a race win, guys. I'm literally looking to see the checkered flag, and I know my car has great capability, and if I just see the checkered flag with a clean car, we're gonna have a good solid day, and that's definitely what we're after tomorrow.
Now, Joe Gibbs Racing and Toyota has been very strong with Denny Hamlin behind the wheel of the number 11 car, who has won 3 races this year. Martin Truex Jr. still looking for his first win of the year, and Ty Gibbs, who won Rookie of the Year honors last year, still looking for his first Cup win. But I'd say the 2 big teams right now in NASCAR have to be Joe Gibbs Racing in the Toyotas and Hendrick Motorsports in the Chevrolets. These are the teams that are really standing above the rest right now.
Kyle Larson has a 15-point lead over Martin Truex Jr., and he's 33 points behind. Chase Elliott is 33 points behind.
Yeah, and really the points really matter if you don't win. If you get down after, I believe Darlington is the last race before the playoffs begin. That's Southern 500 on September the 1st. If you're haven't won a race at that point, then points do matter. But Kyle Larson has a win this year. He won at the mile-and-a-half track in Las Vegas earlier this year. And, you look at some of the other people that haven't won, like, we brought up Martin Truex Jr.
Right.
He's definitely going to be interested to see what the points are going to be laying out. All those guys are wanting to stay in the top 16 so they can get into the playoffs. You remember last year, there were so many winners. 2 years ago, there were so many winners that they thought that the 16 spots would be taken up all by race winners. That kind of tailed off a little bit last year, but certainly points do come into play if you've not won a race in the first 26 races.
Kirk, do you think Denny Hamlin has a chance? He's 49 points out of the lead right now. Do you think he's got a chance to win the championship?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's already got 3 wins. He won last week at Dover. And so, but the point is, it doesn't matter what you've done up till the 10th of November, which is the race at Phoenix, when it's 4 drivers
locked in,
1 championship.
Right.
So,
do you like that format, Kirk?
I'm not real big. I've got to be consistent and say, to me, championship should be won over the long haul. If you do well through the full 36 races of the season, that's where it counts. But I'm at a minority on that. We're living in the new world of NASCAR playoffs. Be like other sports where the regular season, that you do that, but you get into the playoffs, that's where it all matters. That's where we're at in NASCAR now, so we have to accept it. We've been at this now for a while now, the NASCAR playoffs, so I've grown to accept it. I'm not a big fan of it, but it is the system we have.
Do you think a lot of people are not in favor of the final race of the season when the 4 drivers are locked in? Do you think that's a problem?
The only issue that I have with that is winning championships in auto racing is more than just the driver performing out on the racetrack. You also have to have the reliability of the race cars. And part of winning a championship is the team aspect of it all, is the reliability of the cars, finishing races. And that involves the mechanics of the race car. And if you get down to one race, one champion, which is what it is in NASCAR, at the end of the year, blown tire, some kind of a part failure in the final race will do you in, and the driver will have nothing to do with it. That is the only issue that I have with coming down to one race where you got 4 drivers and one championship. Whoever finishes ahead of the other is the champion. But I've grown to accept it, Scott. This is the system we have. We've had it for a number of years now, so they're not coming to me to ask me my opinion. So I'm just going along with the flow.
You know, William Byron, he was second fast in practice, but he's 36th in speed.
Well, he hit the wall in qualifying.
Oh, he did.
He got up into the wall.
I wasn't out there yesterday.
Yeah.
I was down at Wheatland, Missouri. So just so you know.
Yeah, he had a fast race car, and in qualifying, he slipped up into the wall. They were going to repair that damage, so they're not having to bring out a backup car or anything. So they repaired the damage, so he's going to remain where he is on the starting grid right now for today's race. But you know, the rule is if you go to a backup car, you got to go to the back of the pack. And we heard that William Byron doesn't have to do that, and he'll get his normal starting spot. He would have been starting up towards the front of the field had that not occurred, but he'll line up in his normal starting spot for today's race. That's close to the back too, Scott. I'm looking down the sheet here. It is 36 out of 38 cars, so it's like starting at the back.
Right. I think he might have a chance to win this race. What do you think, starting at the back? What do you think about that?
They've proven at Kansas Speedway you can move up through the field at this racetrack. This is not a track where you can't pass. They got the progressive banking. A lot of these guys go to the high side. You've got room to maneuver all over this racetrack, so you can, in 267 laps, get yourself in good track position and work up through the field to have a chance to win this race. So, yeah, at Kansas Speedway, it's not impossible that William Byron can win coming from that far back.
Will Jimmy Johnson ever win another race?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think he's got the car to do it.
7-time champion. He did all that with Hendrick Motorsports. He's now over with Legacy Motor Club, and he's running a partial schedule now. He's not running all the races. Remember, he took a few years off and ran Indy cars for a while. Now he's back driving a Toyota and now driving for the Legacy Motor Club, which is part of, Richard Petty's.
The 84 car.
Part of, yeah. And by the way, while we're talking about Legacy Motor Club, Eric Jones, who is the driver of the 43 car, was injured a couple of weeks ago at Talladega, hit the wall really hard.
Oh, yeah.
He sat out last week's race at Dover and will sit out again today. Corey Heim, who won the truck race last night, will drive in his place today. But he has been cleared to come back at Darlington next week, so we won't see Eric Jones in the 43 car for Legacy Motor Club, but he'll be back next week at Darlington.
You got a little more sound, Kirk?
Let's before we get into the meat of today's races, some of the drivers that we're going to be talking about for today's race, let's recap what happened yesterday. The ARCA Menards Series ran in the afternoon. You heard that race here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. The Tide 150 was won by Connor Mosack, who won his second straight ARCA race at Kansas Speedway. He won here last fall. He did it again yesterday, but he was way behind the leader Tanner Gray for much of that race, as much as 11 seconds behind, but they made a pit stop late in the race, and they swung hard at it, and they made a lot of changes of it, and he ran down Tanner Gray and won yesterday, and asked him after the race how he did it.
Just a good adjustment there at the end. My guys did a good job giving me a fast race car when it mattered.
2 in a row here at Kansas Speedway. What did you learn about the win last fall that you took into today's race?
Last fall I feel like we were really free all race, so I feel like that gave me confidence knowing that, if the car is free or in traffic and dirty air, like I felt comfortable being able to still, kind of keep it on the limit of the tire, doing that and not being timid about wrecking or that sort of thing. So I think that just gave me confidence. And then, going in today, just being able to know how the tire is going to change throughout the run and what adjustments I'm going to need.
Ray got out so fast so far. Did you get discouraged at any point in that race?
No, I didn't get discouraged. I've seen how these races play out. Even when Ty was down here in the 18, I saw him lead by almost a straightaway or more than that. And then, the race, they didn't win the race. So anything's possible in these, especially when you get a restart with only a few laps to go. So we got, I guess a little lucky that we got that caution there at the end and we're able to get that short run adjustment.
Yeah, without that caution, it could happen, but it still wasn't easy. He got back by, he had to pass him again.
For sure. He got a little high there trying to, I feel like I was able to get momentum going up top early, and it was probably a little bit earlier than he wanted to go up there. But, he had to take my air away, and I feel like the bottom was still better, so I was able to go back to the bottom and get back to him. And then I don't know if I got him to, push it probably a little bit harder than he wanted in the one there, and I was able to kind of close up and pull him on exit.
A lot of racing yet to go. What's this win do for you now here so early in the season?
Definitely confidence, especially going into tonight's race with the truck race. I feel like you just have that confidence that, you're just a little bit freer. You don't feel like you're scared to make a mistake as much. You can just kind of go out there and do your thing and be confident.
Yeah, taking in the truck race, anything surprise you about the racetrack you can take into tonight?
I wouldn't say it surprised me, but, kind of got to learn when the top was going to be faster, when the bottom, when the middle, like kind of when the lanes were kind of coming and going. And then also when I was on both sides of the balance pretty significantly today. So I think if we get like that in the truck, at least I'll be able to adjust quickly and make speed, when it's not handling the best.
That's the ARCA Menard Series winner, Connor Mosack. He did run that truck race last night. Looked like he had a fast truck early on in that race, but he had some issues and ended up in 30th out of 33 trucks last night. So not so good for Connor Mosack last night, but certainly celebrated a big win in the afternoon in the ARCA Series. Corey Heim was the winner of last night's Heart of America 200 for the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. We'll see him. We talked about him be filling in for Eric Jones today.
He's getting a lot of laps in this weekend, isn't he?
I asked, or he was asked, I didn't ask him, but he was asked at the post-race press conference last night if being in the Cup car this weekend helped him to win that race last night.
Anytime you race against the Cup guys, I mean, they're, of course, the best in NASCAR, so you're going to learn a thing or two by racing around those guys and the tendencies and how they aero block and how good the restarts are, and pit road is a big one too. Really just having that mindset of you have to perform to the best of your ability, and you can't overstep it or else you put yourself in a bad spot. I think when you race the Cup guys, that kind of elevates a little bit. You have to just drive the crap out of the car and hope it sticks kind of thing, and those guys are all really phenomenal race car drivers. So when you come back to the truck series, also a series with phenomenal race car drivers, but more of a development side of things, I feel like you can put that to the test and apply some of those things. So I think pit road is the biggest one for me. Learning how those guys execute so well and what they do to maximize that was big, and I think it really contributed to the win tonight. Of course, the pit crew did a great job, but just getting on and off of pit road and running my lights, stopping in the box, all of that gave me a good enough gap to hold it to the end of the race. Even though we might have not been the fastest truck at the end, we were able to hold that buffer.
Heim took the lead for good on lap 102 of the 134-lap race. That's his third overall win at Kansas Speedway. He's a two-time winner in the ARCA Series and picks up the win last night. His seventh career NASCAR Camping World Truck Series, Craftsman Truck Series win. Corey Heim, the big winner last night. We'll see how he does in that 43 car today.
He qualified 20th, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Eric Jones, he was on the pit box last week at Dover. I would assume he'll be on the pit box. How
today.
hard is that for a driver, Scott, to watch somebody else drive your race car?
I've been through this before. I had Rick Beebe drive my race car out there at I-70 Speedway one day, and he won the race, and it really pained me to watch him win in my car, to be honest with you. It was the most painful thing to watch Rick Beebe win in my modified out at I-70 Speedway, and then the next week I went out and won as well.
Eric Jones, a great guy. He's a 2-time Southern 500 winner, and he'll be back in the car. You know, the good thing is that he's thinking, I'm cleared to race, be back next week, and everything's good.
You know, Kirk, I love Kansas Speedway, and since they did the reconfiguration in 2012, I think it was 2012, wasn't it?
Yeah.
2012. I think the racetrack, the 1.5-mile racetrack, I think this is the best racetrack in America when it comes to a 1.5-mile racetrack. What do you think?
Oh, I would agree with that. The progressive banking, and we're going to hear from a couple of drivers about the configuration of the racetrack and the progressive banking here coming up here in just a little bit. But you're absolutely right. There is a lot of room to maneuver on this racetrack, and we're biased. I think this is the best mile-and-a-half racetrack.
I do, too.
On the NASCAR circuit. I know Homestead has always been praised as being a great racetrack, but I got to tell you, Kansas Speedway has put on some great races. That race a year ago when Denny Hamlin got into the back of Kyle Larson and won that race, that was
stuffed him in the wall.
Yeah, and through the early portions of the race, both last spring and last fall as well, when Tyler Reddick won, Reddick didn't lead till right at the end of that race, if you recall, but there was a lot of action throughout both of those races last year, and why should we expect anything different today?
I would agree with that, Kirk. You're listening to the Kansas Speedway pre-race show, Advent Health 400, and we are going to take a break right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We'll be back in a moment here on Sports Radio 810 WHB in a moment. Stay tuned.
Track Talk. Rod End Supply is involved with a variety of motorsports as well as industrial applications with many different types of products. Since 1989, Rod End Supply has provided superior products priced competitively. Whether you're racing at the circle track or drag strip, rock climbing, or going off-road, Rod End Supply has an assortment of rod ends, radius rods, and specialty products to keep your equipment moving. Rod End Supply's experienced staff is ready and willing to help you with your needs. Their promise is to continue to provide a superior product with superior service so you can stay in front of the field no matter what it is. To learn more, go to rodendsupply.com.
2 minutes.
Though I generally talk about
10-4.
medicine and effective treatments for erectile dysfunction and other men's sexual health issues, today I want to talk about love. Because love is the best reason to get treated for your ED. You see, ED can cause major relationship issues. In fact, men often push their partners away when ED becomes a problem. The condition can cause depression, arguments, breakups, and even contribute to divorce. But the good news is that if you're like most men suffering with ED, you can be successfully treated at Heartland Men's Health and put a stop to the relationship stresses that ED can cause. I say this with all confidence because we have treatments that are effective in well over 90% of cases. Surely, it's likely you'll find you're performing like you haven't in years. So make an appointment and get the love back in your life. Your initial visit is just $99 and includes blood work, a medical consult, and if medically advised, a test dose. And if that test dose doesn't work in the office, your visit is free. Call 844-447-6600 or go to heartlandmenshealth.com. We have 3 offices: Overland Park, Independence, and now North Kansas City.
Save big money on roof and floor trusses. Now at Menards. We carry a large selection of pre-built, residential, and post-frame trusses to complete your next building project. Bring your building plans to your local Menards or upload online and start designing your trusses today. Save big on trusses at Menards. And don't forget to check out our flyer on Menards.com for all the great deals happening now.
Save big money at Menards.
The Fall Guy comes to B&B Theaters this weekend. Ryan Gosling is a stuntman on a mission in The Fall Guy, an action comedy which pairs him up with Emily Blunt. Come enjoy it the way movies are meant to be seen on the big screen at B&B Theaters, the family-owned and operated movie theater company that operates a cinema location not far from you with nearly a dozen locations across the KC Metro. Their newest luxury entertainment complexes offer the latest in sound and comfort, electric reclining seats, grand screens, marquee suites, full bars and restaurants, and so much more. B&B Theaters, the big screen is back.
1 minute.
3 locations, Midtown, right across from Costco, Parkville, and St. Joseph. Their Midtown store is amazing. If you're a little tentative about visiting a dispensary, go there and check it out. Their staff will answer all your questions and set your mind at ease. You can even order online and use their convenient pickup window. It's so easy. recreational, or medicinal. Everyone over 21 is welcome. Fresh Karma has the best selection of flour in the city with weekly specials on all product categories. Find out more at freshkarma.com.
Your home for the NFL. Sports Radio 810 WHB.
In the shotgun, Mahomes. Four-man front, receiver in motion, low snap. He runs and he throws, caught, touchdown. It's caught. Hardman caught the ball. The Chiefs have won. The Chiefs have won. Their third Super Bowl in 5 years.
Your home of Westwood One, the NFL playoffs and the Super Bowl. Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Welcome back. It's the Kansas Speedway pre-race show. It's the Advent 400. Kirk, you had a chance to talk to Joey Logano as well.
He is a 3-time winner at Kansas Speedway, a 2-time champion of the NASCAR Cup Series. And we got in a little bit about the racetrack. But before that, I asked him about Ford's. They've been struggling. They haven't won a race all year. They come out with the new Mustang body this year, but as a unit, Ford has struggled just a little bit.
I think they're a little behind with the Ford body, aren't they?
But, I asked Joey about that and how close are they, and here's his response to Ford's not having won a race yet this year.
We'll just gotta keep trying to find some more speed in it. It's never one thing, right? It's never one challenge that's going to do it. It's going to be a lot of little things, and we've identified those areas. It just takes time to change that. So we're making improvements slowly but surely, and we just got to keep maximizing the days, and eventually the speed will be there. And when that's there, we can win a lot of them.
This is a racetrack you've had a lot of success at. Your thoughts about this racetrack and what kind of a race we're going to see?
Honestly, this is one of the best racetracks for the next-gen car. As wide as it is, and you can move around. It's one of the best places for passing with this car. So I'm excited to get out there and see what it's like. Get some fall off, and it's been a fun track, good track for us.
Not every racetrack's got the progressive banking. That's been a big part about when they repaved it and reconfigured this racetrack. How big is that part of it?
Well, it definitely helps it. The top groove actually is the dominant lane, which is changed over the years here. So it seems like it's starting to migrate down a little bit again as that asphalt's starting to wear on the top lane as every car is running up there. But it's definitely, the track's changing constantly.
About the tires that they bring to the racetrack, too.
Right.
That's a big component.
It is. And Joey Logano, in practice, he was 32nd, but he qualified 11th.
You think today is the day that Ford breaks through with its first win of the year?
I don't think so. Do you think Ford could win today?
Right now, if you look at the way they practiced and the way they qualified right now, you'd have to favor the Toyotas, and more specifically, either Joe Gibbs or the 2311 teams. 2311 specifically has won 3 out of the last 4 races here.
Yep.
And the other race was won by the co-owner with Michael Jordan of 2311, Denny Hamlin. So, yeah, I still think you got to favor the Toyotas, but, they brought out that new Mustang body last year. I don't think they're quite there yet. So, yeah, I would agree with him. Maybe not today, but at some point, Ford's going to win.
Brad Keselowski, you had a chance to talk to him as well, didn't you?
He did. And just to kind of follow up what Joy was talking about with the way the track's configured, and it's a very racy racetrack. I asked Brad Keselowski about the High Line and why everybody runs the High Line here at Kansas Speedway.
For whatever reason, well, I probably know the reason. The next-gen car just is not a high horsepower vehicle, and so you need to run the top just so you don't slow down the corner, because if you run lower, you're definitely shorter distance and all those things, but you have to slow down to make the corner. When you go to get back on the gas, there's not enough power to speed back up when you run the bottom. And so when you run the top, you don't have to slow down as much, and you don't need the engine as much. And so that's really had an effect on a track like Kansas, which has a little bit of that progressive banking, to where you either run the top or you're so slow down the straightaway it doesn't work.
I think that Brad is correct. if you run the high line, you're going to keep the momentum up, and if you run the low line, you're going to take a lot of speed out of your car. And I think that's a big point. Back in the day, Kirk, back when I raced out at Kansas Speedway, the low groove was the fast groove, wasn't it?
And the old configuration
Right.
before the progressive banking, all of that. Yeah. And Kansas Speedway is a higher bank track than you might believe. And you only know this if you get up close to the banking and even walk up the banking. It is a higher bank track than you might think.
I don't understand.
Especially at the top.
Kirk, when I raced out there at Kansas Speedway in 2003, you couldn't run that close to the wall, all the way around the wall. And it's amazing how close these drivers are with their cars up against that wall. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it kind of reminds you of the way they raced up against the wall at Eldora Speedway on the dirt last night.
And kind of like Darlington as well,
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah, Darlington's a lot narrower.
Yeah.
So you're going to hit the wall at Darlington.
Yep, no
There's
doubt.
no question about that. The champion of the NASCAR Cup Series is Ryan Blaney. If you remember, he walked out of there with the big trophy at Phoenix last year. I spoke with Ryan yesterday, and here is that conversation. Let's talk about this racetrack. When did you get your first pole here, didn't you?
I did, yeah, 2017, I think. So, yeah, good memories. It's always nice to come back to places where, for first pole, first wins, kind of that stuff. You always kind of think of those things a little bit. So, fast racetrack, and hopefully we can get another pole today and try to get a win.
Ford first win. How soon's it coming?
Hopefully this weekend. It's definitely not from a lack of effort. We're working hard every single day to try to figure out where we need to be at, and I think we're inching in on it. I feel like we're getting closer to where we were at the start of the year, so that's positive. It's just a matter of getting there. So I like to say this weekend, but we'll find out. We'll get a good idea today of kind of where we stack up, but definitely, like I said, not from a lack of effort.
Winning the championship, what's that do to your confidence now that you're into your first season as a champion?
I think it's a confidence boost for everybody, on our group when you do something like that. Everybody on our team knows you can do it, and they know what we achieved last year, and now it's, okay, we kind of know how to put the parts and pieces together to try to get there and win it. Now how do we do it again, and how do we continue to become better as a group and a team to do it again? So, confidence is definitely nice in this sport. I believe in it. I'm a huge believer in confidence. It affects your performance on things and just have a better outlook on everything. So try to use that to our advantage.
Kansas Speedway, a pretty racy 1.5 mile track. Just what are your thoughts going in about what you got to do to win here?
Yeah, I think, the last, I can't even count how many races have been won on the fence. So you got to have your car running good against the fence, and but also kind of be able to run the lane off of it. I feel like if you're married to the wall, right up against it, you're not going to pass anybody if he's running the wall in front of you. So it's how to make your car work, at the wall, lane off the wall, things like that. But just big commitment level, a lot of throttle time here, and with the weather being kind of chilly, it's going to be even faster. So you better hope you got some raw speed, and you better hope that you are fully committed going into today and tomorrow.
Pit stops seem to be becoming more important all the time. Just how critical is that right now?
They're easiest places to get spots, on pit road, easiest place to lose them, easiest places to gain them. So we put a huge emphasis on it. Our group has done a great job, and everybody's still getting faster. I forget I think it was this past week, we looked at an average of everyone's, average stops for the year after 9 races at this point last year, and we're like 0.8 faster. Everyone's like 0.8 faster than what they were last year. So that's a big bar to keep raising, and for those guys to keep getting better and better and improving. And, we're trying to shave tenths off the racetrack, and they're doing the same thing on pit road. They're trying to shave tenths off their pit stops. So it's a challenge. Those guys are great athletes and working hard every day just like we are.
You don't get a lot of practice time out there before you qualify. What do you have to do during the week in order to prepare for these races?
I think it makes you be, kind of ready to go as you get to the track sooner. And we've had a few years of kind of practice with that, since the pandemic, and this is kind of just the way it's been. So you get pretty good, but yeah, the prep work at the race shop has to be even better than what it used to be, a handful of years ago, just because you can't throw the kitchen sink at it anymore. You know, you're kind of limited to what you can change at the track and on pit roads. So that part puts a huge emphasis on the teams to be ready, and the drivers. I mean, you better be up to speed right away. I mean, you can't be taking 3-4 laps to get up to speed just because you don't have those to spare. So just a lot of prep work, a lot of data watching. I don't do a ton of sim, but those are kind of the biggest thing I do to prepare.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you what the prep work as a driver you have to do during the week. Is it on the sim? Is it just watching races? What do you got to do?
Everyone's a little different. Some guys do sim, other guys watch races and look at data from last year. I'm more of kind of a data guy than a sim guy, but everyone's a little different.
Ryan Blaney will start 26 today for Penske. His two teammates, Joey Logano and Austin Cindric, are way up towards the front of the field. Austin Cindric in the number 2 car is 7th, and as you pointed out earlier, Joey Logano is 11th. But Ryan Blaney way back in 26th.
Kirk, do you think that running up at the top of by the wall makes it a boring race? Do you feel like that?
No, because you still see guys down on the bottom of the racetrack. I mean, it's not as though everybody is just riding the lip on the outside. We don't see that at Kansas Speedway. You still see drivers down on the bottom of the racetrack.
Yep.
But I think, truthfully, it is the fast way around for all the reasons Brad Keselowski talked about with momentum and the lower horsepower on these cars, that you're going to get more momentum on the top side.
They've got to keep these cars wound up because of the low horsepower.
You know what it kind of reminds me of, Scott, is back in the 2-barrel carburetor days. If you ran a 2-barrel carburetor on a car, you had to keep the foot down to the floor because it was all about momentum. Does it kind of remind you of that?
It does remind me of that a little bit, Kirk, because back in the day, we ran 352 barrels, and then we went to the 4412 500 2-barrel carburetor, and that's such a low horsepower. We only had about 375 to 400 horsepower with those cars back in those days.
Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? That the highest level of stock car racing, the NASCAR Cup Series, is lower horsepower and all about momentum. But as you and I both know, speed doesn't necessarily translate into great racing either.
Right. You know, Kevin Harvick and Kyle Larson both said that they need to have 1,000 horsepower in order to, because back in the day, you can blow off the tires. If you have 1,000 horsepower, you could blow off those tires a little bit more, and that just it just makes for a better race, I think.
Does more horsepower separate the level of talent between the drivers?
It does. Yeah, absolutely. It does.
The more talented guys do better with the higher horsepower?
With the higher horsepower, for sure, definitely. A guy like Christopher Bell would thrive if they had 1,000 horsepower. What do you think about that?
Would Kyle Larson win more races with higher horsepower?
Kyle Larson would win definitely more races if he had more horsepower, no doubt.
Well, it's an interesting topic. I don't want to see a freight train and no passing. That, as a race fan, that's the only thing that I would wonder about. If you went that direction, would you see less passing out on the racetrack? Because right now they got a pretty good package at Kansas Speedway with this 1.5-mile deal. Now the short tracks, not so much, but the mid-intermediate level racetracks like we see here at Kansas Speedway has put on some great races over the last few years. I'm a little bit reluctant to try to mess with that right now.
The more talented drivers would excel more with 1,000 horsepower, just so you know.
Well, I would agree with you on that. You're a driver, so you'd know better than I.
Yep.
So we are going to hear from a number of other drivers here. We're going to take you up to the top of the hour. The Motor Racing Network will be carrying live the Advent Health 400, and the green flag is scheduled to be a little after 2 o'clock. We've got all the coverage for you here on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
And it's all brought to you
Track Talk. Rod End Supply is involved with a variety of motorsports as well as industrial applications with many different types of products. Since 1989, Rod End Supply has provided superior products priced competitively. Whether you're racing at the circle track or drag strip, rock climbing, or going off-road, Rod End Supply has an assortment of rod ends, radius rods, and specialty products to keep your equipment moving. Rod End Supply's experienced staff is ready and willing to help you with your needs. Their promise is to continue to provide a superior product with superior service so you can stay in front of the field no matter what it is. To learn more, go to rodandsupply.com.
90 seconds, gentlemen.
Score
10
big
for.
after every Kansas City baseball win with Sports Radio 810 WHB. Go to 810WHB.com and click on the Blue Zone banner to get exclusive discounts and savings at participating businesses. These special discounts are good the day after every win until close of business. Celebrate the wins and you win too with the Blue Zone. Go to 810WHB.com and click on the Blue Zone banner. View exclusive deals, buy something you want, and save your hard-earned money after every baseball win.
Gear up for a weekend of fantastic savings at From the Earth dispensaries, running from Friday, May 3rd until Sunday, May 5th. Enjoy a relaxing puff with 15% off illicit pre-rolls, including pre-roll packs. Plus, don't miss their mix and match offer. Any 4 illicit and Nuthera 8s for 15% off. Explore a diverse selection of top-shelf strains and create your perfect cannabis bundle. Visit From the Earth this weekend and expand your cannabis experience with these incredible specials and unbeatable savings.
30 seconds.
Don't waste your valuable time working outside on your lawn and landscape this year. Hire the professionals at Summit Lawn and Landscape. From mowing and fertilization programs, mulching and shrub trimming, to complete landscaping and sprinkler system design, install, and service, Summit Lawn and Landscape can do it all. Spring is here, so don't delay. Use who Sports Radio 810 uses for all of our outdoor needs. Call Summit Lawn and Landscape at 816-966-9434 or submit a bid request online at summitlawn.com.
Welcome back. It's the Kansas Speedway pre-race show. It's the Advent 400, and it's all brought to you by Rod End Supply, featuring the POWRi Midwest Lightning Sprints. Christopher Bell is on the pole, Kirk, and I'm pulling for Christopher Bell, just so you know.
Yeah. Well, we saw Christopher race at the Chili Bowl and a lot of places before he ever came close to running NASCAR. So
Always
we've
pull for
gone
Christopher.
back a long ways with Christopher Bell and watched his career very closely, as you have Kyle Larson. You watched Kyle Larson race from a long time ago.
Back when he was 15 years old, I watched him race out at Cottage Grove Speedway when he was 15 years old.
And you saw the talent then, didn't you?
I saw the talent then. And to be honest with you, Lee Spencer, we told her about Kyle Larson. Remember that?
Yeah, watch out for him.
Yeah.
And now look what he's doing. So
he could be the most talented race car driver on the planet. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, of course, a lot of people said that, Kyle Busch, the other Kyle, was as talented a racer as there ever was, too. So, all these guys are talented race car drivers, but no one more versatile than Kyle Larson. All that he has raced in sprint cars, I doubt we'll see another driver win the Knoxville Nationals, the Chili Bowl, and some big-time dirt late model races, and now he's going to tackle the Indy 500 and win and go fast in all those different kinds of race cars. But
Kirk,
Kyle Larson is one of the very few to be able to do any of that.
Kirk, what do you think he's going to do during the Indy 500? What do you think? You think he'll run really good?
Yeah, I think he's got to get more laps, and I've got a soundbite from Kyle. Well, I'll ask him a little bit about that. But he just needs laps in the race car, and which he did get here a few weeks back, but not around a lot of drivers yet. And he's got to understand who he's racing around. But it's amazing to me, his comments about driving a Indy car and how that compares to driving the NASCAR Cup car. I've got a little soundbite here. We'll play this right now. First of all, I asked Kyle about the limited practice sessions that they had before qualifying. And, they're only out on the track, just a few minutes before they qualify in all these races? What do you really learn from those laps out on the racetrack?
Learn still a fair amount, and just getting up to speed, getting a rhythm and all that. Knock on wood, thankfully our cars usually unload pretty well, so we're just, debrief and talk about it and then, fine tune it for the race.
You don't really have a lot of time practicing there. What do you have to do as a driver during the week to prepare yourselves to come out to all these races? Is doing the sprint cars and the other type of racing help you in that regard, or what are some of the other things you have to do to prepare as a driver before you come to these cup races?
Yeah, I mean, all of it, I guess. I race, which I think helps. I watch some video, look at a little bit of data. I really probably don't do as much as others. I think a lot of times in today's age, you can study too much and screw yourself up for the weekend. So I really don't do a ton of studying, but just you get some bit of preparation. Just kind of reading over last year's notes probably is the most effective thing for me.
I hear you say those Indy cars drive a lot similar to these Cup cars. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think I think they're fairly similar in the edginess of them. So yeah, I mean, it hasn't, to this point, I haven't done many laps in the IndyCar, but to this point, it doesn't seem as far different as what everybody cracked it up to be.
And he's talking more about these next-gen cars.
Right.
The steering boxes in these cars are a lot different than the old cars.
The rack and pinions.
Rack and pinion steering.
Right.
So you don't move the wheel that much in an Indy car, that's for sure.
Right.
But it sounds very similar to the way he drives the Cup car. And that's very surprising to hear.
And pit road is very important to where you pit, and Kyle Larson is pitted in 12A. Just so you know.
Today at Kansas Speedway. Is that a good spot? I don't know where 12A is.
Well, that's towards you're still in the front.
You're up towards the front there a little bit.
Yeah, so what you have is you have a few. So I think you have maybe 15 and then another break in the wall and then another 15 and then another break. That gives you your 45 at the end. Back in the old days, we ran, 43 cars. So, yeah, he's at the front, and I'm like you, Scott. There's the people that tend to win this race unless something kind of strange happens.
Start up towards the front.
Start up the front unless they get involved in a wreck or something strange like that. But you always see a lot of media in those first 15 boxes because those would tend to be the drivers that seem like.
You're listening to the Kansas Speedway pre-race show. It's the Advent 400. It's all brought to you by Rod End Supply, featuring the POWRi Midwest Lightning Sprints.
Let's talk about Denny Hamlin. He's the big topic of conversation right now because of his win last week at Dover. He called his shot, and the pit stops have become very good for Denny Hamlin. A lot of mistakes have been made with the 11 car in the pits as well as the driver to keep him from winning a championship this year. But since Chris Gaypart, his crew chief, has come along, things have really been taken up to a new level. That was right before the 2019 Daytona 500. He's won 3 Daytona 500s. He's won a bunch of major races, but not a championship. And I heard Chris Gaypart talking about why it works with Denny Hamlin, and he said it's about honesty. I tell him the truth, and there's a trust factor that goes both ways. He's earned my trust and vice versa, the other way around. That's why it works with these guys. And here is Denny Hamlin's take on the relationship that he has with his crew chief, Chris Gaypart, which seems to be the best in the garage area right now.
He does a really good job, in my opinion, of asking the right questions and, thought-provoking questions that maybe I can bounce back off of him. So I think we're asking each other the right things, and then that's equaling, we're working on the right stuff because of that. I think it's really easy nowadays to kind of get off on a track, and then next thing you know, you've kind of lost the ball and you don't know where to find it. And so once we get kind of a home base of where we feel comfortable at a certain track, we stay pretty close to that, and we make sure that we continue to prepare the way that we prepare each and every week. And Chris just does a great job of going to get the next bit of speed, wherever it might be. And then for me personally, it's continuing to work on all the flaws that I've got.
But doesn't that apply to anything that you do in life? The trust factor is a big deal, isn't it, Scott?
It is, definitely. It's just like back in the day when I had Trent Owens as my crew chief. I put complete confidence in Trent Owens. He's a Cup crew chief now. And that was his first race ever as a crew chief. As he was driving as my crew chief, he was a perfect crew chief.
And then when Clint Boyer was in the race car,
he
that combination you had when you put Clint Boyer in your ARCA car,
run second.
Yeah, and the engine man that you had too, that was a big part of that.
Dan Begley.
Yeah. So you had it all working.
Trent was really good with shocks. He was really good with the setup, and Dan Begley had a lot of horsepower, and we always had enough horsepower to win a race.
And now Trent Owens is on the pit box for Daniel Hemrick in the 31 car for Colleague Racing. So Daniel Hemrick starts in the 33rd starting position today. So we'll keep an eye on your good friend Trent Owens and how he does with Daniel Hemrick, a former Xfinity Series champion and Rookie of the Year in the NASCAR Cup Series. So be interesting to watch. Hey, you got somebody to root for right there.
I always root for Trent Owens, to be honest with you.
Another driver that is one of the top rookies, I think he's got a shot at winning the Rookie of the Year title this year, is Josh Berry. He replaced Kevin Harvick in the number 4 car for Stewart-Haas Racing this year. And yesterday, I had a chance to visit with Josh Berry and asked him about his race this weekend and how he foresees the rest of the season.
You know, I think our car's pretty solid. That qualifying session's fast. That's one of the most intense ones I've had. Just a super high level of commitment, but I think the guys did a really good job. I feel good about the car. Like I said, I think tomorrow will be a little bit different conditions. We're just hammered down everything we got right now. So I think it'll be interesting to see once the track takes some rubber and we start moving around a little bit how it plays out. But I think we have a solid baseline, and we can see how we do.
Big challenge coming in, replacing, I would say, a legend, but just you and Rodney Childers, just how you meshing right now.
Yeah, I think we've had a great relationship, prior to this, but I think we're just steadily improving. And honestly, I feel ahead of schedule as a rookie. I find myself racing better, qualifying better, practicing better, unloading with more speed. Still a lot of, there's a few of these tracks that I've been to in a next-gen car, but a lot of them, this is either the second time or first time. So it's just going to take time to continue to build that. I think we feel like we can keep making improvements over the course of the year. And, the second half of the season, hopefully we can keep that up and keep getting stronger.
The bigger challenge seems to be for all the Ford drivers, is it not?
Yeah, I think, for whatever reason, the speed hasn't quite been there, and maybe the consistency hasn't quite been there. We've shown flashes of speed at times, but just haven't been as consistent. But we're moving the right direction. I mean, we're getting better every time we hit the racetrack. I think overall with the Ford team, I've been pretty happy with my car a lot of these races. I think we just got to keep just massaging it and getting a little bit better here, there. And once I get a little bit more comfortable, I think we can hopefully start knocking off some better finishes.
Seems like you've always been good on the short tracks. Just how the other racetracks coming along?
Yeah, I think, really we've had really good runs a lot of places. I think, tomorrow will be interesting. I think the intermediate tracks as a whole probably are, our biggest problem, I think, at this point. I don't have a lot of races on the intermediates in this next-gen car with this package, so I think it'll continue to take time to build that, and hopefully if everybody at Stewart-Haas, we keep working and getting better, Ford gets better, then we'll be fine.
Josh Berry starts 17th in today's race.
Kirk, I can't thank you enough for taking all the time to get all the sound bites that you got out there at the Kansas Speedway.
That's the reason why Kirk was at Kansas and I was at Lakeside.
And I was at Wheatland.
Yeah, but
we
that's the reason
all
why.
Over the place.
Yeah,
you want to hear from one other driver?
We got one more.
Go ahead.
We got one more to hear from. He's the most popular driver in NASCAR. He's a former champion of the NASCAR Cup Series. He's already won a race this year. He won at Texas here a few weeks ago, and we're talking about Chase Elliott, a former winner at Kansas Speedway, and here's Chase's view on getting close to a win at Kansas Speedway.
I think pretty solid. I look at this track in particular. I feel like Kyle's been probably could have won this race a couple times over the last 2 or 3 years or a couple years. So that's a nice thing from a company standpoint, just to know, hey, this is where those guys we're at the last time we were here, and these are the comments, and kind of help gauge that. So we were actually decent here last year, I thought, in the spring and in the fall, really. So hope that we can carry that through this weekend too.
Victory lane here at Kansas Speedway. Remember the fall race in 2018? He won here.
He qualified 9th as well.
So I think he's got a pretty good shot. I think it took him a year to get over all those injuries. He was still hurt in that race car, wasn't he? Didn't he have to have some procedures done in the off season to totally get himself well from that snowboarding accident that he had?
He was hurt for that, and he even talked about that he really wasn't fully recovered from that. And so, yeah, I believe you're correct, Kirk. That he didn't let that on to be as big a deal as it was, but yeah, I think it was a big deal. Big deal.
Predictions, which I'm not very good at out here. Who's going to win this race?
I'm not very good at those either, but
I'm gonna go with Christopher Bell.
Well,
just so you know,
that's my sentimental
pole
pick.
setter. Good shot. I try to go off the limb here. It's easy to pick Denny Hamlin or the 2311 Tyler Reddick who's in the field. It's easy to pick those guys.
10 seconds.
Let's go with somebody. I'm going with Ross Chastain. How about that?
That's a good pick, Kirk. I think that's a good pick. And you've been listening to the Kansas Pre-Race Show
Sports
here
Talk,
on
powered by fans. Sports
I didn't know.
WHB.
Now it's new. You can keep. Go ahead. Now go ahead. He hit the wrong day. Go ahead.
We are about a minute away from live coverage of the Advent Health 400 from the Motor Racing Network. You can hear the entire race here on Sports Radio 810 this afternoon, and we appreciate you. And just a reminder, we have Track Talk every Saturday morning at 8 o'clock on Sports Radio 810. Also, we do a podcast every Monday, mostly motorsports. We talk about not just NASCAR, we talk about sprint car racing, dirt track
That's more
stuff,
of a national show,
stuff.
right?
Yeah.
It's more of a national show.
And it's all brought to you by Rod End Supply. We appreciate you tuning in, listening to us today as we cover the race this afternoon. Enjoy the race, everybody.
All right, thanks everybody for tuning in to the Pre-Race Show here at Kansas Speedway. We can't thank you enough for doing
Rod
so.
End Supply is involved with a variety of motorsports as well as industrial applications with many different types of products. Since 1989, Rod End Supply has provided superior products priced competitively. Whether you're racing.
Yeah, that was my bad on the outro, but smooth finish.
Rock and roll, man. Hey, I appreciate it, brother. Be careful out there, and thanks for everything, man.
We will see you on Saturday.
Perfect.
All right. Hey,